Hi there, my name is Marty Coleman with Hydra Sailing Solutions, and today we're going to go over some video footage from Jody Abrams' Ariel J105 that they captured in a bit of light air. But really good to sit down and kind of look at things and take a look and get a baseline for where the sail setups are on the boat and where the crew setup is. So let's start by looking at the sails, and here is the mainsail. And just a couple things when you look at here, the sail particularly is very flat. And if we look at the actual arc numbers that digitize, we can kind of tell what the camber and how deep the sail is and the entry lanes. You can see right here that the draft, which is kind of the max depth in the sail, actually moves pretty far back in the middle of the sail. What we're looking for here is it's like an airplane wing, where this is the front of the sail, the luff of the sail. It's like the front of the wing. You want the sail of the front to be a little bit more rounder and a little straighter on the back side. And that's what creates lift in the sail, which translates down into the keel, which then helps the boat move forward. So one of the things we look at a lot is where the depth is in the sail and how it sets up across the sail. The bottom is the leech curve. So what we do is we digitize the back of the sail and look at it, and it's a very, 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 very straight leech. So I think when we look at the video, you'll see here, so this tells me that they're trimming the main really hard. And you want to have a little bit of a twist in the sail to let the top of the sail and the camber of the sail change a little bit along with that. And you would see that if you open that up and digitize it again, you'll see the difference in what happens to the sail. So with this setup and this picture that's being taken, probably a little bit too much main sheet on for this condition. You want the sail, the top tail to be tucked in behind about 75%, and then the next tail down to be flying fully at all times. So we'll just have to kind of take a look to see. Can't quite tell if that one's tucked in or not, but I would assume that this tail's tucked in and this one's flying. So I would assume that maybe Traveler up and a little less sheet would be a little bit better setup. Now, also what we need to take in consideration is the tuning guide. Adjusting the shroud tensions really helps the sail get fuller and powered up for the lighter air, and you tighten it up to be able to depower the sails and set the sails up for heavy air. So there's a tuning guide that I'll include that you guys can go through and start to make sure that you're changing the rig in regards to the conditions, because that translates to taking out power and putting in power into the sail plan of the boat. So this looks to me a little bit flat for the light air, which may be translated in that the rig is still a little bit too tight for the conditions based on where it should be. Now let's go over to the Genoa. And see what that looks like. So this Genoa to me looks very, very, very flat. Very flat. You can see the entry here, really. And again, in light air, you want to be able to power up. You got to get the boat so that it accelerates out of the tacks, and you can build that speed and chase and make it a little bit easier so that when you have lifts and headers, you can get through the transitions a little bit better. So this just looks to me like a very flat sail, and if you look at kind of the max depth in the sail, it looks a little bit far back. So let's look at and you can see it here. The yellow line's farther up on the sail, and the green line's a little bit farther down on the sail. You can actually see that the max depth is almost it's farther back in the sail. It's like 69, what was it, percent back, 52% back. Depth right here, 52% depth. So it's pretty far back in the sail in the top, which, again, think about an airplane wing. The front part needs to be a little more curved, and that's what gets you that power. So this is it probably feels like it's very hard to get to speed, and that's probably what we're seeing with the way the sails are set up currently on the boat. Okay, now let's go over to the video and take a look at what we got there. Shrink this down, and let's see if I can bring up the first video here. I think it's this one. Let's take a look. Okay, so let's start here. So this is the first video I have. I'm just going to kind of go through this with you guys a little bit and just kind of pull things out and show you what I'm looking for here. One of the things is making sure that you get people out of the sail area up in here. A lot of the times I saw a lot of people sitting right up inside the slot of the sail. And think about that. On an airplane wing, if you got people that are actually sitting right there, the biggest part of the sail is down low. The most efficient part of the sail is down low. And yeah, good. Somebody's laying down. That's awesome. But you still got a lot of guys up here. You almost want to stick a couple of these guys down below, and just to try to get them out of the slot so the airflow that's coming on the inside isn't being disturbed by people in there. All right, so we're getting up for attack here. Pausing there for a second. So the release, always look forward at when to release. You know, sit behind the winch, and when you release, you can always be looking. You want to make sure you know exactly when to release. Having a little bit of backwind and light air to help pull the bow around is great. And one of the dangers is, if you look here, let's see if we can do this. Let's back this up just a little bit. Boom. You see how the sail's actually being pulled to leeward and backwinding because the boat hasn't turned all the way yet. So we've got to be a little bit careful. You want to backwind, let the sheet go, and wait before trimming on the sheet to leeward until the sail passes the shrouds. Because you don't want to backwind it over on this side and actually help and slow down the boat on the back side of the tack. There's another tack that will be a little bit better. So. And weight management, really want to make sure that the people that are not doing anything are really trying to move around. But look, we got two people in the slot. So this part of the sail is being really affected by the people sitting in here. So lay flat or get them down below is really a better practice. Yeah. And looking here real quick, looking at the Traveler, I'm not sure if the Traveler's all the way up. Very high boom on this boat, so in light air you should really have the Traveler all the way up, and just making sure that you're twisting the main a little bit like we talked about earlier, where the top tail is just being tucked in about 75% of the time. Really breezy day out there, I can tell. Okay, hold on here. So let's go through this tack. Okay. These people should come over now and go all the way over to the windward side right now to help roll the boat over. And you should be pushing all the way against the shrouds right now. Okay, you see what's happening right here? See how the boat hasn't... Now, this is slowing the boat down, this backwinding of the jib. So just waiting a little bit longer on the release, help the boat come around, and then it'll make the trim come in a little bit easier. But you'll see that in a couple of the other tacks. But again, should only really be... These two people should be on the rail to leeward right now, really pushing their weight over. Okay, just kind of keep going through here a little bit. So you got a person releasing. This person should release and then immediately go and hike to the left side through this tack, which would then be the leeward side after the tack. So let's see what happens here. I think this is one of the better tacks here. Holds a little bit, releases, pause. So now you can see the jib's actually blown all the way out. This person, once he's 100% sure the jib sheet's clear, should immediately go over to the leeward side. So really nice. That's the proper way to get the jib through the tack and get it trimmed in. So that was a really nice transition through that tack. But more critical to have the people on the backside. You should have the 3 people, 1, 2, and 3, on the backside over here, helping the boat lean over and getting the sails full and getting the boat pulling again. And of course, again, got to get them out of the slot in there because it's really disrupting a significant part of the sail in here. All right, see what we got here. Another tack coming. So hold on here. Here's one of my little pet peeves for a second. Oh. So don't know where Jody's looking, but never look backwards during attack. Should always be looking at your tails, trying to get a feel for how quickly the bow's turning, because you want to use as little rudder as you can, because it slows the boat down if you turn hard. So you want to use as little rudder as you can. You want to turn and then slow the boat down very quickly. And got to be eyes forward, looking at the front of the sail, trying to find your landing zone so that you come out not too deep and not too shallow. Let's see how this one is. So again, both these people on the front should be already over here pushing hard against the lifeline. Main sheet trimmer can stay leeward. Okay, see how it's backwinded? Really want to try to wait a little bit longer on the release, and then just so it'll be a lot easier when you're pulling it in and you're not backwinding. See what else we got going on here. I think we're done with this one. Okay, we're done with this one. Let's go look at the next one. This one. Okay. I think we've hit all the key elements here. Maybe a little bit tight on the outhaul, a little bit. You know, again, these sails are quite flat, so just maybe a little bit ease on the outhaul. Let's see how this tack is. Probably too early on the release, and then it causes the bow to come a little slower, and the jib trimmer is trying to be quick on it. So again, looking forward, the release jib person should be looking forward and getting a sense about how much backwind's needed to get the bow around without super backwinding it. Not as good as the one that was done twice ago. So weight management, looking forward, holding the release a little longer and not pulling the new jib sheet in while it's backwinding. All right, going for a set here. Let's see what we got. Okay, here we go. Okay, here we go, and on the hoist. I really like the masked person's hand over hand. That's the best technique. He's doing a really nice job right there. Main's gone out a little bit. Jib should probably go out just a little bit more through this transition. Boom. Okay, so now, as soon as this kite is up and the bell's rung, the jib sheet should be eased. So we got a person here doing the halyard. That's a new person on the sheet. Maybe the main trimmer could do a quick release on the jib to allow the wind to then attach to the spinnaker and not have the jib taking a lot of air out. So let's see what happens here. Okay, and so the kite's full, but then it collapses again. So that's something you want to avoid. And that has to do also with making sure the jib eases a little bit. Now, again, I'm not a huge fan of sitting to leeward. And one of the things is, what is the right angle? Do you have a wind indicator at the top of the mast? I always like to have telltales I put on the shroud, about cassette tapes. You can make them about, I don't know, 12 inches long, and you tape them to the shroud here, and then you can get a sense of what the wind angle is coming across the deck. And you can turn the boat on the hoist and get it to where it's about 90 degrees to the deck, and then it'll help avoid the kite collapsing and trying to then come down and find your area to your angle on the wind. So I'm a huge fan of that. Telltale off the shroud. Helmsman's looking at that, trying to get the right angle as the kite's going up so that when it fills, it's at the right angle. And here you can tell it collapses, so we're a little bit too high on the set. Still collapsing. So the sheet guy moving a lot if we look. So he's kind of moving around, and not, obviously the key is to have this thing trimmed before moving around and getting settled. I know you're right there on the hoist. Stay there, let the kite get trimmed, and just keep trimming it. And then once the boat's going, then make the transition up onto the bow to be able to trim from up there. So a lot of collapse, a lot of collapse, a lot of collapse, a lot of collapse. So really try to get the kite full immediately. And that has a lot of things happen there. We're too high. The boat angle was still too high. Didn't finish trimming the spinnaker fully before making the transition. Easing the jib a little bit. So those are the things you want to think about. Okay, windward sheet's kind of set. Pause. Okay, so let's talk here. There's a couple of things that we'll walk through this first jibe, and then we'll talk about it a little bit later. Here we go.
3, 2, 1.
Okay, so right now, who's releasing, who's trimming? Now the boat's turning, and a trimmer is moving at the same time. So what you would like to do is get your trimmer in the new position with the spin sheet that we'll be trimming on later, and have him so he can just pull as it's coming around, and the other person will release. But to move at the same time as you jibe is not particularly perfect. See how he's moving, and look, right now the guy in the bow is pulling it, but no slack's being taken out of it. So just make sure the trimmer's in the position ready to jibe before the sheets actually move. So you can see here, a lot of slack still. Now we have 2 people pulling. There should only be 1 person pulling the slack out, or pulling the kite around on the sheet on the side, and the other person will pull the slack out. That's the trimmer. So the third person here shouldn't be doing anything besides weight management, right? Getting their weight low. A lot of crazy things going on in here. See, turned out to be 9, great. Now, if we had tailtails here that the helmsman was looking at, he would try to get the boat to where the tailtail is 90 degrees, and then that would help finding the exit and getting the kite filled quicker also. Still not, kite's going to collapse, trimmer's looking down, kite collapses. So again, trying to stay fully focused on that. Always looking at the kite. Still collapsing. Still trimming. Come on. And maybe a little bit too hot. Right. And that's where the telltale will help also. There you go. So really long transition there. All stem from the fact that the trimmer wasn't ready on the new side for the jibe and trying to hit the right angle. Looks like the battens, main trim battens, weren't flipped over just yet either. So a lot to work on right there. Make sure the tack is down all the way. It looks like it's up a little bit, so make sure the tack is down a little bit as you can see it wobble around here a little bit on the fast motion. See it wobbling? Okay, here we go. I like the weight management. Getting people forward's always good. I don't particularly, unless you really need somebody to hold the boom out, but get the weight forward of the shrouds and will help a little bit. And this way they can lean in and lean out and get the back end of the boat out of the water, which will reduce the wetted surface. Okay, so here we are again. Let's back up just a little bit here. Pause. Okay, so we're getting ready to jibe. Trimmer should automatically come down to the leeward side, get his new winch sheet slack out. The person releasing can stay over there. That person will release and then move their weight out to the rail. Let's go for it. So far it's a good... Okay, again, right in the transition, a lot of slack still needs to be happening. So this person just needs to be over there. The main should wait. You should actually release the main out a little longer, what's called a late main jibe. Ease it out so that you can get the kite around. And then sometimes even when the kite starts to full, then bring the boom over. So don't force the main over. Ease it out and then let it come over. But here you're actually slowing the boat down by backwinding on it. See, now he's pulling the slack out just behind a little bit on the whole sheet management side of things. And also, this right here, this little pigtail that they have, make that as short as possible. You don't want, that's just excess waste that the kite has to go farther out through the transition. So get that sheets together, get it as close as you can to the clew of the sail. Need to get a little more weight to leeward, a little bit. Get the guys in front just to go to leeward a little bit, I think would help also. Forward and leeward. I think that's all we have on this one. We'll be right into the next one. Yeah. Okay, let's get into the last one. Who gets this one? Okay, now we're coming into another jibe. And let's hit play here. Pause. Oh, wait a minute. Back it up. Let's back it up here a little bit. Pause. Okay, so let's talk about the main. We've talked about still getting the sheet management side to side sorted, and the slack will get out. It'll get just much easier. But if you let the main out now and hold it out, just hold it out. Don't even pull it over yet. It'll help the kite get over and get filled a little bit beforehand. And then look, the main trimmer's helping on the slack sheet. You got 3, 4 people helping on the sheet. It should only be the trimmer pulling and one other person pulling this sheet back around. So one person pulling from the windward side sheet and then the trimmer only. Should be able to get it done in every wind condition. So I think we got to take down. Okay, hold on here. All right, so here we go. Take down. Jib's coming out. Make sure it doesn't get over trimmed. Windward sheets on, yeah. And then ease it out. Don't want it to be over trimmed at all. Taking air out of the kite and collapsing it a little bit too early. See how the kite's collapsing right now? That's because the jib came in and made it a little bit harder. So now it's time to get rid of it. So the jib's trimmed in all the way as you turn up. You really want to be behind the jib trim. You don't want, it's like if you over trim the jib, that pushes the bow down and makes it harder to turn the boat up. It also is less efficient and effective across the sail. So you want to be slightly late on the jib trim as the bow turns up to go back upwind. Just like you're luffing a little bit, and that's really what the jib trimmer should be looking at. Again, getting the weight to leeward as much quickly as you can, out of the slot, all those things we've already talked about. So obviously light air, these are just smoothness issues to try to make, but they all translate into heavier air also. See how the jib trimmer's looking backwards and trying to look around to get a little, just maybe try to get to a position that's a little bit more user-friendly. Up, you're looking, that's good. Let's see. Hold. Probably a little bit quicker. Still pretty light. Probably a little bit slow on the turn. Again, looking forward, trying to find your landing zone. Good. Okay. So to recap, just going through a few things here. Let's take a look at my notes. I think both sails are a little bit flat on the cut, and just have to try to find a way to make them powered up in the light stuff and getting through those transitions. Like I said, I think it'd be really good to look at them in the medium 8 to 10 knots and see how they set up. Tuning guide, go through the tuning guide and see where you're at. Want to know next time what the rig tune's set to. So when I look at the pictures, we know exactly what the picture setup is versus the rig tune setup. Crew work, talked about weight management, getting across the boat, the tacks and the jibe. So that's all I have. Thank you very much.